Welcome to episode 321 of the Postal Hub podcast. I'm Ian Kerr. There's so much data in the delivery and logistics world. Everything from scan events through to, well, more scan events and more scan events after that. Data from delivery centres, data from the field. So how can you take all that data and make sense of it? Well, in this special episode brought to us by The Information Factory, Rob Jordan, the CEO at The Information Factory, joins me to talk about the importance of having a data strategy and how that can be used to drive the profitability of postal, delivery and logistics companies. Joining me on the line is Rob Jordan. Rob is the CEO at The Information Factory. Rob, we're going to get stuck into a whole load of things. I don't want to say it's about data because that makes it sound very, more existing in zeros and ones rather than relating to the actual physical world. But we're sort of talking about the intersection of that digital world and the physical world, aren't we?
Thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, data is a challenge. It's also an opportunity. And that's really what we're here to talk to you about today is how we as a company help you deal with that challenge, because it is a challenge. As you say, it's ones and zeros. It's bits and bytes. It's stuff that's hard to handle. And yet it's a huge opportunity in today's environment.
And every postal and parcel delivery operator is awash in data. So before we get stuck into it, though, we should actually just give people a quick introduction to anybody who doesn't or isn't aware of what the Information Factory does, a little bit about what you and the team do there.
We've been doing this for 20 plus years. The name, actually, the Information Factory, comes from one of the seminal studies that was looking at how data flows around within a company. And we picked that up because what we were doing within our core client at the time was obviously something that was applicable to everybody. So the Information Factory is the idea that there is data flowing around all over the place, and you need to capture that data and you need to be able to use it. We've grown over the years. We're a team of 80 to 90 people. We do, as I was saying before, we help customers handle the challenge of data, which is critical to them in today's industry, and take the opportunity of using that for whatever it should be. Anything from the digitalizations today, or in some cases just a straight reporting, which is obviously the bread and butter. So 80 plus data workers ready to come to your services whenever you need us.
So let's then talk about what it is that parcel and postal delivery companies are really looking at or trying to fix when they come to you. So I guess as a sort of a preamble here, though, I mean, it's well known what's happening in the delivery world. You've got pressures like falling letter volumes for postal operators. You've got fluctuating or growing parcel volumes, whether it's a postal company or a parcel company. You've got labour pressures and things like that, depending on what market you're in. So give us a bit of a flavour, Rob, of some of the problems or challenges, if you prefer that word, that posts and other delivery companies come to you with.
Yeah, absolutely. It varies, and it very much varies on where that company, really which part of the logistics chain that company is in. So postal operators, a lot of them are dealing with operational issues. We know that. They're trying to understand their operational efficiencies. They're trying to be able to optimize, whether it's last mile or whether it's network performance. That's the type of things that we do see very much. That takes an awful lot of information to do that. Obviously, once you've got information, then you've got the engineering challenges of handling that, and to be able to get that to the right place and to be able to put that into effect. The postal operators, you've given the big picture for them, and I think everybody is well aware of that. That this need to be able to reinvent themselves and to be able to stay relevant in a changing environment with the difficulties and the pressures that they have. The particular needs to be able to bring, let's say, sustainability through, because they have a social role and a social part to them that means that background is very important for them. So they've got quite a lot of I don't want to call it baggage, but they've got quite a lot of things to carry with them as they go about dealing with their business. So they're looking for us to be able to help them through the engineering challenges of, I've got a lot of history, and yet I've got to be able to deal with the real pressures of the day to day. And an awful lot of that comes down to revenue optimization, and whether or not that's from cost optimization or whether that's from improving or changing services over the top of a legacy base of applications that they're having to work from. So that's the bread and butter from the postal industry. The parcel industry and the general or the wider logistics, can't call it general, the wider logistics game has different challenges. We deal with people who are looking either to integrate their data to the end-to-end supply chain, to take advantages of the rapidly expanding digitalization options that are out there. So to get their product to market through a digital channel. That often happens. So the API game and making sure that they can get their prices out onto a freight exchange or to be able to pick up prices from carriers, get that integration to the supply chain. And an awful lot of reporting, which is at the bread and butter for us. We get an awful lot of reporting, people wanting sales reporting, operations reporting. They want to embed data into their web pages to improve the customer experience, all of these type of things. That's what we get involved.
One of the things that I think is particularly attractive about sort of logistics generally and delivery in particular is that it's about problem solving, isn't it? But what we're doing is we're solving problems all the time. And whilst people outside the sector might say, oh, all you do is you take a parcel from A to B. Well, you're not really just taking a parcel from A to B. You also have to worry about things like, you're maintaining your fleet, worrying about delivery density. And you mentioned about being, what was the phrase used? Price efficiency or being competitive with other carriers and things like that. There's all these sorts of things. And the more you look into it, the more important, I feel like I'm saying your lines here a bit, Robert, the more important data becomes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's the logistics game's a wonderful one for a data person to be working in, because that chain is complex. It's a sophisticated market as well. I mean, I think some people kind of like look at it as, well, look, you're just a trucker, that type of thing, or you're just a delivery person. But that's so far from the truth. And anybody in the logistics game knows that it is a highly sophisticated, complicated network of moving pieces that needs massive amounts of um, very intelligent people to be able to pull it all together and make it work. And the data flow goes through that. That's the challenge. I mean, that's why we get out of bed in the morning, because, as I say, you're dealing with those challenges all of the time, whatever they might be. Whether it's a senior executive trying to be able to change strategy and move in a new product and something important for them that they're looking for, or whether you're dealing with as I say, somebody who's just got a problem in the report and it's glitching and it's not coming up fast enough and the number's not there. All of those, they're little challenges, and they're the great part of dealing with it day in, day out.
Now, one of the things that we've spoken for a number of years, everybody. Rob and I have known each other for a few years, running into each other at various events around the world and all that sort of stuff. One of the things that sort of comes up from time to time in our discussions is this idea of a data strategy. And I know that we talk a lot in the delivery world about moving things fast and the customer experience, but this seems like it's sort of a hidden thing that underpins all of this. So can you just explain for us what is a data strategy and why it is important in the delivery world?
Well, can I take the first part of that as by moving industry, if I can, then we'll come back to the logistics side of things. Let's take, for example, those people who are working in the finance industry, because that's the classic one. If you're wanting to be able to do trading, share trading out there, then those guys need to be able to have data and systems that are acting in sub-microseconds. So they're reactive, highly reactive. And if they're not doing that, then somebody out there is doing that trade faster than you. And then you're losing money because somebody's got in there before you. So that's a highly competitive environment that needs you to be able to respond in a real tiny fractions of a second to particular triggers that are set into the system. And then you get more clever about exactly how you set those triggers, and you can get into, okay, how you're dealing with it. But in their case, they have a need to be able to have data available to them in an incredibly tight time window. Okay. So to do that, that's an engineering question. That's your data strategy. That piece of information is absolutely core and fundamental to your business. And so then now let's take it back to the logistics industry, and go, okay, you as a part of the network needs to be able to provide data. You will need to be able to provide to receive data coming in from suppliers, providers, customers, and you'll need to be able to provide the same thing back. We spoke to a company who was doing the line haul for Amazon. They were doing the line haul up and down in Romania at one point, so they'll know who they are. And for them, it was nice and simple. They're going up and down the road. They needed to be able to do the reporting to Amazon of, okay, I've picked it up. Yes, it's on the road. Yes, it's coming to your warehouse at the other end of the day. That data is an awful lot slower, but incredibly important to them. Without the ability to transmit that through to Amazon, they did not have their core business. It just wasn't there. So for that, their data strategy, it's not finance. I don't need to be able to have it at sub microsecond, but I do need to be able to have it available in a way that I can provide it to my customer. I need to understand that the data quality is critical because I won't necessarily get paid unless it is. And I need to be able to ensure that it goes, because otherwise I'm not going to have the deal tomorrow. So what is a data strategy? A data strategy is focusing on what your core business is, and then saying, well, what is it that I need to be able to underpin it, and what is the engineering that I need to be able to make that happening? And that it's like any strategy for any part of your business, whether that's customer service, operations, whether that's billing, whatever it is. It's the making sure that that is efficient and it works. Yeah, and data is that important nowadays that you need that strategy. You've got to think about it.
So if you're a CEO of a delivery company or a logistics company, or if you're a senior executive, whatever you might be, and you have the equivalent of a CIO or someone like that reporting to you, what are the key questions that you'd need to ask that person about the data strategy to make sure that everything is in place and it's fit for purpose and things like that?
The CIO is a really difficult position, and there is in some cases a CDO that comes in alongside them to be able to help with this particular data. So your chief data officer, but the CIO is a role that covers a multitude of items, and it could be just I'm saying just, there is no just. The CIO has a massively complicated job, keeping the entire network going and keeping all of the components up, running, going for everything across the business. And obviously, IT covers so much nowadays that they're incredibly important. Data is one component of that, and I think from the CEO's role, it will be to be able to make sure that the core components. There'll be the questions I'd be asking. Do we have our is the data quality there within our operational data? Because that's something that comes up time and time again. You lift the lid on this stuff and you discover that there are endless amounts of little issues. The scan's not coming through. The guys aren't doing it properly. Somebody's not entering the data at some stage during in there, and there's holes in it. And so asking about data quality from a CEO it's a difficult question to ask because it kind of lifts the lid, but you're the CEO. That's your role to ask that difficult question. What is our data quality like? And in the operational area, that's probably the right place to start. So I would focus down on that one and say, what's our data quality like? And then the next question would be, is our data fit for purpose? So you as a CEO, again, it's up for you to be able to say, is our data present at the places that we need it to be? And that is it fit for purpose question allows you to be able to say, does it come up and in the right places for, again, the operationals or for the customer service or for the salespeople or for the billing people? All of those people have data that needs to be correct for them to be able to do their job. So the question of, look, is your data fit for purpose? Is the quality there? They're the type of questions the CEO should be firing.
And it's a boatload of data too, at the risk of stating the obvious. That's out there now. Let's talk about the idea of a cost model. We sort of hinted at this earlier when you were talking about pricing and things like that. So what is a cost model really? How would you define a cost model when it comes to delivery and logistics?
The activity-based costing. We've had privilege, I think, is the word, to be able to work with some very large companies looking at their costing and to work with some highly intelligent people who know how to be able to bring these things together. Our role in this is always just to be able to enable it. So we were building the software in the background and doing it, but obviously you're exposed then to the business side of things, which is fascinating. ABCs are the activity based costing's a whole game out there, and if you get it right, then you have got the fundaments, you've got the pieces that allow you to be able to drive everything within your business, because it breaks it down to what you want, which is this an efficient use of our capital to be able to get on with what we're doing. So the ABC takes things like everything in the chain, from the pickup through to the line haul, the terminal handling, everything that's done in with the customs, the overheads of everything that you've got in terms of customer service, etc., and the central HQ costs, and applies those across. So you take all of your costs, and we've mentioned this. I know I've mentioned this to you before, but the difference of having those being based on some sort of finger in the air calculation that people can then come back on you and say, hey, look, we need to ensure that calculation is there, and then tying it actually to your general ledger. That swap between it was a calculation that we did through to no, this is based on the general ledger, so it is unchallengeable, just makes the difference, because all of a sudden you've got a set of numbers that allow you to be able to go the cost per piece. And if you've got a cost per piece, and you can then aggregate that whichever direction you want it to be, whether or not it's then the efficiency of the pickup, so the ops cost per move, whether or not you're actually looking at as say the customer profitability. That's the other one. Is this customer profitable, or the lane profitability, or all of that jazz? Once you've got the fundamental, you can start building it in the directions you want. So the activity-based costing is just it's a beaut. But as I say, tie it to something that you're going to believe, which is your general ledger. Would be so critical.
Now, you've talked about some of the granularity there. What was it, the phrase used? Ops cost per move and things like that. What about when it comes to allocation of costs? Because this is something we've sort of discussed with some of our other guests on the podcast recently, is understanding allocation of costs and measuring things and all that. So when it comes to allocating overheads or calls to customer service and things like that, and being able to break it down to key accounts, can that all be done? I imagine the answer is yes, but then how do you sort of approach that?
A lot of thought, a lot of whiteboard time, using templates, and we can help with those to be able to get through it. I think it's all about the drivers, and again, we're blessed because we've had the chance to be able to work with some very smart business people who do this. Our role in this is to be able to take it, to implement it, to then to be able to make it work on a day-to-day basis, because it's one thing to be able to think about it. It's another thing to then to be able to see it going through, and then to be able to optimize it, and to be able to make sure it all comes up, and then to be able to take that data and put it to somebody who can take action from it, because that at the end of the day is what you're looking to be able to do. It's great to be able to have a great cost model and your data down to the finest granularity. But if there's somebody who, or if you're not doing something with that, giving it to somebody who's going to take a decision from it, or putting it within a system that is going to take an automated decision associated with it. So, a price, for example, a price offer, then it's a pretty useless thing. So you've got to use it, and that's what our role is. But the smart guys who we've had the pleasure of working through look at the drivers associated with this, and each particular part of your chain, so your end-to-end business chain that you've got, each one of those components that you take is going to have a series of drivers. So if you're talking again about I say this cost per move that we were talking about, then that needs you to be able to have the data coming in from your courier. So I stopped, I delivered, I moved on. That's a move. And so you've got to be able to have that data available in the first place to be able to do that. If you haven't got it, well, okay, then we're going to go at a higher level, and you aren't going to get as necessarily so perfect numbers, but you're going to be able to have an idea of what's going on. So you start at the level of the granularity that you've got within your data, and then you look for the drivers from there that you can get up there, and you will discover the horrible truth that we talked about before, which is you got holes in your data, because you do. And that's fine. And the more eyes you start looking at things, and that'll improve your performance of things like your scanning and your quality of the information capture that you're doing, etc. But don't think that the data is necessarily um, a pain-free game. You're going to find stuff as soon as you start looking at it, and that's great. But you have to embrace that.
Well, if you're working towards this idea, as you said, of optimizing your operations, that's got to be worth the investment. So let's then talk about how you start on this journey, because a lot of the things you've said will be music to people's ears. So how do you start on this journey?
Yeah. Start again with that data strategy is what you need to be able to do. So, what do you want to do with your data? What's important about it? Go back and those CEO questions: is my data fit for purpose? And do I have the data quality that's necessary for it? The fit for purpose question is the one that is going to trigger you. Okay, what am I looking to be able to do? And there's a lot of questions about that come out from that. Is my data fit for purpose? Um, how are you receiving that data? I mean, we've come across people who they've got trucks coming in. Trucks coming in every day. I've got 5 tons of e-com and stuff that's about to be able to turn up in my warehouse, and I've got a fax that's come in from a Chinese company. Yeah, okay, that's telling me what's inside there. Okay, so that is not fit for purpose. Yeah. At that point, you've got somebody who's going, hell, this truck's turned up. What the hell's on it? Okay. And it's all in Chinese and it's all got numbers on it that you have no idea what those good numbers are. And I've got to clear it through customs. This type of craziness. We've rocked up and we've had people who, for the sake of a $5,000 change on their system, have got $1 million worth of outstanding invoices sitting on top of a cupboard for customs clearance. True stories. Is my data fit for purpose? Well, in both those cases, no, you're screwed. So that's where you need to be able to go and have a look at it and go, okay, hold on a second. You need an API to be able to standardize your data on your inbound from your provider or your supplier who's sending you that 5 tons of e-com goods, or you need to be able to make sure that your billing process is capable of doing the data entry so that you can reclaim that $1 million worth of outstanding VAT or whatever it was.
There's a lot for us to ponder in this, I suppose, Rob. There's the everything from improving the way you capture data through to the higher level things like having a data strategy and being able to interrogate that strategy to make sure it's effective and fit for purpose and all those sorts of things. I think it's inescapable, though, that data quality is vital for the operational success of a logistics or delivery company and the profitability of that delivery company. I'm editorializing a little bit here, Rob, but if we can't be profitable, what's the point, right? And even if you're a postal operator, and you might even still be part of the government, whether it's a semi-government organisation or you're still a government department, there's going to be more and more demands upon the post to be efficient and to not be a drain on the public purse. So everything from a private carrier that's completely private through to a government-operated postal operator needs to have more efficient operations because of basically, what we've already outlined. I'm in danger of repeating myself a little bit here, Rob, but I actually find this quite enthralling, this discussion of data, because those of us who have been around the industry for a while will recall that it's not that long ago that parcels just used to disappear into a black hole and then be delivered at the other end. And measurement of letter delivery was completely manual. It's not that long ago. So anyway, I am really quite getting carried away.
You're 100% right. I mean, tracking is something that came in, and it was being sold as a huge plus, and it was a premium. I mean, it was massively premium to be able to have end-to-end tracking. And nowadays, you wouldn't go. You need to know. Everyone needs to be able to know, and tracking is a standard. So yeah, it's moving, and for sure, and that's driven by data. So yeah.
And the consumer expectations have changed as well. I know we've gone over consumer expectations so many times in the podcast, so I won't go over it again. But I don't know if it's the same for you, Rob, but if you're at a barbecue or a party and you say that you're working in the postal sector or the delivery sector, somebody's going to straight away say, oh, I had a parcel. It didn't get scanned properly. Or I was watching the tracking. It looked got it set like it was sent to the other side of the country. And then you have to explain to people how tracking really works. And you think, oh, what? Anyway, it's more in the public consciousness, I suppose, now as well, this idea of the sophistication of delivery, whereas only 15, 20 years ago, there wasn't that same expectation of sophistication of delivery. But probably a discussion for another day. But
yeah, I was going to say, can I just give you a quick parallel from the industry? The term that we're now seeing coming up across the data world is this term of observability, and they're talking about observability, which is the data going through the flow, to be able to see where the data anomalies are within it. It's the observing it through the process. But that's happened in the logistics industry as well. You have package observability, so people need to be able to see through the great, you need to be able to see through the woods to see the trees. So all of those data points out there, but people want to know where their package is, and that observability is now key to the industry. Yeah.
Now, Rob, if people want to find out more about what the Information Factory does, or want to have a chat with you about what you might be able to do for them, how should they get in contact?
Sure. Well, we're simple, as you'd expect. Go to the website, theifactory.com. Thief Factory. I'm still trying to work out what that means, but it's theifactory.com. Or you can contact me on LinkedIn. I'll be delighted to be able to come back to you.
I'll stick a link on thepostalhub.com to both the Information Factory website and to Rob's LinkedIn profile, so you can drop him a line and find out more about data strategy and visibility and pricing and all that sort of stuff. Rob Jordan, CEO at the Information Factory, thank you very much for joining us on the Postal Hub podcast today.
Thank you very much, Ian. Pleasure to be here.
Coming soon on the Postal Hub podcast, we've got our friends from Copenhagen Economics returning to talk about universal service obligation and letter volumes and lots of interesting stuff like that. Who else have I got coming up soon? I mentioned previously that we've got a B2B delivery startup coming up. I'm not going to tell you the name of the company yet. Maybe you could guess. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh, stay tuned. Subscribe to the podcast. That's what I urge you to do. Subscribe to the podcast in your favorite podcast platform, and that way every episode is downloaded to the device of your choosing every time a new episode is released. What else can you do? Subscribe to my email newsletter. That's always fun. I send out a newsletter every week when there's a new episode released, and I include other bits and bobs in there as well. I also have the Daily Delivery Digest. Check that out if you want daily news directed to your inbox. I nearly said direct to your favourite email account. Send it to your favourite email account. I don't mind. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, do it. And if you want to email me about anything at all, preferably something delivery related, my email address is ian@thepostalhub.com. I'm Ian Kerr. Thanks for listening in, and I look forward to your company next time on the Postal Hub podcast.